The 19th century is thought to be the century belonging to Great Britain. The 20th century is the century of the Americas, of the United States. And the 21st century is often considered to be the resurgence and rise of Asia. Now, many people, many analysts believe that this is the case. Even Hillary Clinton has recently said this. But what I would like to talk about today is not necessarily just the Asia that everyone considers, China and India, which is often in the news, but a different part of Asia. I want to talk about these countries, this set of countries that are west of Asia. Many of them are still in Asia, and that have shared a very common and long history together. They have been sort of like the pass-throughs of the most ancient east-west trade routes in the world, the Silk Road. The heydays of the Silk Road were between the 2nd century BC to the 15th century AD. And through the Silk Road, many products were transported from east to west. There were ideas exchanged, there were ideas, innovations invented, innovations implemented, and through this exchange of ideas and goods, a lot of changes came to the world as well. They transformed both the sciences of the East and West, the societies of East and West. They spurred innovation. They influenced the arts and cultures of many of the societies that we know. They shaped world history, and also they defined tastes. Now, you may ask me, who are these people? These are not actually people, they look very oriental, but these are not people from this region. They are people from the Netherlands, from the Low Countries, Belgium and the Netherlands, who are very wealthy people and who are very well established in their societies. And the way that they like to have their once-in-a-lifetime pictures taken is in these outfits that came from the Orient in order to project their worldliness, their sophistication, in a way, their wealth. They even posed in demeanors and in composures of the East. Here's it. The bigger the turban, the better. White or black didn't matter. And here is even Rembrandt's favorite self-portrait of himself with a huge turban on his mind. So the arts and the cultures of the East very much influenced the West for a long, long period of time. And who has to forget Marco Polo in his travels and the marvels of the world that he put out and that inspired actually Christopher Columbus, and it inspired also cartography in the West, so that the West started to go out and do much more explorations than ever before. The origins of it was on the Silk Road. Now, what do I talk about? What do I say when I want to talk about this common market that I would like to propose to you? I think that these countries can build very much on their existent long history and long affinity with each other. I have essentially taken 11 countries out of this group. There could be others, but I would like to very much focus on these core 11 countries that I would like to call the Silk Road Common Market. Currently, these countries are sort of like hanging in there. To the north is the Russian Federation, to the east is the ASEAN, to the west is the European Union, we have the Arab states, we have South Asia, we have the GCC, we have the African Union, we have even Australia on the map. So they're kind of hanging in there in a type of economic no man's land. They don't belong to any group, they're not integrated within each other and with the rest of the world. Now together, this group of countries can be very, very significant growth engines for the world. And I want to show you how. I would like to first look at the landmass. How large are these economies? How large are these countries? When you put them together, they are almost as large as Australia. Now, you will ask, for instance, well, how large is Australia? Well, let me superimpose Australia and Europe, as you can see here. And if you superimpose Australia on the United States, you will see that Australia is as big as the United States. So these countries, the combined area of these countries is as large as the United States or Europe. The next, I would like to show to you their combined economic power. All of these countries and all of these economies are not performing yet at their top level. But when you combine them together, and when you put them together, they're as large as Canada, between Canada and Australia again, the world's 11th and 12th largest economies. Now, for many people who want to go into a new country, the population size or the market size is very important. Again, here I have presented to you the combined population of these countries. Of course, nobody in the world can compete with China and India, but when you see the population, the combined population of this group is almost as large as the United States. So when we look at the population, the land size, we look at the combined economic power, they are already something that one cannot easily overlook and one cannot easily forget. But these countries offer many more advantages. They are some of the leading economies in terms of oil and gas. They have vast other mineral resources. They have great renewable energy, wind and hydropower. Tajikistan is one of the world's largest exporter of electricity through hydropower. They have, because of the sort of like the east and west span of these countries, as well as the north-south, they are able to produce any kind of crop. They are able to produce any kind of agriculture. So for the food security and for the kind of concerns and challenges that we face, these countries again can be important breadbaskets for not only their own region but also for the world. But most importantly, these countries have something that the world is after, and it is the talent pool of these countries. I want to show to you the percentage of the population in these countries that has at least a high school degree. In the United States, only 88% of the population has a high school degree or is above high school degree. In most of these countries, and part of it is because of the legacy of the Soviet Union, where education was very important and where education in science and technology was very important, you will see that they're almost reaching full. Just about everybody is a high school graduate and above. There are several countries that still are struggling with it, but they're also coming up very quickly, and I will show this to you in a second. Here is, for instance, what we as economists like to use as a measure for the trainability of a population. It is called the mean years of education. When you look at the mean years of education, and it is very difficult to lift this mean years of education, particularly in larger countries like Iran or Turkey, let's say from 7 to 8. It takes a lot of effort. But these countries are already way on their way, and the average for the world is around 8 years of education, and as you can see, there are many of these countries that already are exceeding that level of the average of the world. But what is more important is that the people in these countries are heavily investing in the education of their children, of the next generation. So in 10, 15 years from now, when you see this incredible increase between the actual mean years of education and the expected years of education, you will see that there is a huge change. There will be a huge change, and there will be a very large talent pool in this region. However, the talent pool is unfortunately not very well used, and that's where we need to work. We need to work, and that's where also this common market can come into play, and it can be useful to utilize more effectively the available talent pool that we have. Here I am showing you the labor force participation rates of men and women. The men already are working at an average below world average. The world average is about 79%. That means there are countries that are 80 or 85%. Many of these countries are around 75 to 80%. But when it comes to female labor force participation rates, nearly all of these countries are below world average. And that's, again, an area that needs to be addressed, because I think this is a very important economic asset that we have that needs to be utilized more. When I show you the availability, the talent capacity and the available capacity, we see that this region, the combined capacity of this region is almost half, if not more, than that of the United States, and that is already a very sizable talent market. It's probably the world's most advanced talent market. Just to show you a distribution of the talent pool across these 11 countries, you see that Turkey and Iran, and to some extent Uzbekistan, are the dominant forces in terms of the talent pool. Here is the male labor force utilization or underutilization. When we go to female labor force underutilization, you see even a bigger share of the pie for Iran. That means Iran is even more underutilizing its female labor force. And that is actually quite, I want to share a few numbers and statistics with you. This is quite a loss of economic potential when the female labor force participation is not high. There are 60%, we all know that about 60% of the university population in Iran consists of women. It's 70% when we look at the science and technology share of women at the universities. Iran has the 5th largest female enrollment across the world. And in terms of science and in terms of engineering, female enrollment in actual terms, not in percentages, because percentages don't really reflect the size of the population. In real, actual, absolute terms, Iran is #1 in terms of female enrollment in engineering. And it is #2 in terms of science, just below the United States. So this is a huge talent pool that needs to be utilized. And just the same way as in the past, all the products that were transported through the Silk Road, through this fabulous Silk Road, were products that women made. They made the textiles, they made the carpets, they made the spices, the fruits, everything that was traded through this Silk Road was made by women. The men were the traders, they were the transporters. And for the next Silk Road, the same thing is going to happen. These are the knowledge-based economies of the world. This is the knowledge-based era. And with this type of talent pool, we must invent a new type of future for our region and in a new type of future products for the consumption. What I would like to show to you now is that when we talk about, okay, let's put together a common market, but there are certain barriers. Most importantly, people think about tariff barriers, that you have to pay huge import or export taxes. When I looked at the trade restriction index of this group of countries vis-a-vis other trade blocs, I saw, or the index shows that it is actually the lowest, among the lowest trade barriers in terms of tariff trade barriers for this country. So this is very good news. That means that we don't really have to work as much on lowering trade barriers. But when you look at logistics and infrastructure index, that means both the soft logistics, connectivity, internet connectivity, connections between the countries, as well as the hard logistics, roads, railroads, and so on, the region comes in less or worse than other regions in the world. And that could perhaps be a reason why the market access index into these countries, among the countries, is actually the lowest in the world. So this is an area that needs to be worked on. And it needs to be worked on by the private sector, for the private sector, and that is a great opportunity for everybody to get engaged in order to really utilize the capacity and the resources of this region. So what I would like to leave you, the idea that I would like to leave you with is that we have a lot in common with this group of countries. We can build on these founding blocks, and we can create a new Silk Road market for us, and we can utilize the capacities that we have, particularly the female capacity, the female labor force capacity that we have, in order to create an engine of growth, not only for this region, but for the world, and for all of us to benefit. Thank you.